Hello and welcome to another video. Today we're going to look at the Sample Modeling Trumpet and how I set it up with the Roland Aerophone. So the first part of this setup is to think about what we can do on the Aerophone to get the best setup to work with the computer. Now I use Mainstage as my front end, which we'll have a look at in a moment. But first the Aerophone itself, and I'm going to use the iOS editing app on the iPhone. You can also get this for Android now, remember. And but there is a little thing we have to do first on the Aerophone itself, and then we can do the rest of the edits on the app, which is much easier. What I'm going to suggest you do is, if you search for program 21, that is the internal program for the trumpet sound. And if you go ahead and press and hold menu, and then select somewhere you want to write that sound to, because we're going to have to write it into a user slot first before we can actually mess around with it on the editor app. So I'm going to write it into a blank space here. On mine I'm selecting the user program 60. I'm pressing menu again. I don't really need to rename it anything. I can do that in the app. Menu again, and press the right arrow for yes. So now that is saved into the memory. Now what we're going to do is connect via the USB cable straight into the iPhone, and now we can have a closer look about making the further adjustments on the iPhone editor itself. So the first thing I need to do now I'm into the editor app is download the current settings from my Aerophone, and I've gone up to the top of the screen, press the download arrow, and then I have imported the sounds from the Aerophone. So now I've imported all those settings from the Aerophone, and I can scroll to 60, trumpet B flat. That's where I saved my sound. I'm going to go ahead and press that, and I'm going to touch the top right hand button where it says editor. And here's where I can make some changes. I'm going to go to the bottom right hand corner and press advanced. Now down here, the interesting bits for me are the settings for the right hand thumb. One of the big advantages of the Aerophone is that it's got this four-way lever on the thumb, which means we can send out 4 different types of CC controls to any software instrument. Now I'll show you a selection that I've been using that I think are quite useful, but of course you can experiment and do your own thing. The first one I'm going to do here, where it says thumb controls, thumb up, I'm going to change this to CC1, and I'm going to set the maximum to maybe about 120-ish, something like that. You'll see what this is going to do is I'm going to be able to make a kind of lip trill on the high notes, a bit like a big band trumpet player might do on the high notes. Let's do the down arrow. I think I'm going to leave as it is, because I think I quite like to have a little bit of pitch bend going down. I don't use the pitch bend going up very much. That's why I'm using it to give me that lip bend at the top. Now the left setting, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set that to CC23 and probably leave it with the settings 0 to 127. And on the right hand thumb, I'm going to set this to CC5 and make the maximum on that perhaps not too high, around the sort of mid 80s. Again, you can choose what you want to do with this to experiment. Now, what have I just set up? Well, on the left hand thumb, when I move the lever to the left hand, what's going to happen here is it's going to make a flutter tone happen on the trumpet sound. And when I move the lever to the right, it's going to induce a little bit of portamento. So if I want to make a slightly slurred sound between the two notes, that's going to do that for me. The other thing that I have used very often in conjunction with Mainstage is the ability to use the joystick to turn on and off one of the mutes, which is a really nice thing to be able to do as well. So now that we can go back into the first page here, and we'll save it to the internal iPhone memory, and then don't forget, we need to write this to the Aerophone. It says write tone to the Aerophone edit buffer. Are you sure? Yes. Now, that hasn't changed the sound completely in the Aerophone yet. This is something that's rather confusing with the editor app. What we now need to do is go and do a regular save on the Aerophone itself. So I'm still on my trumpet sound, my user 60 sound, and to properly write that sound into the Aerophone, I need to press and hold the menu and press it again, press it a third time, yes, and now those settings are written into the Aerophone itself. So please don't forget that extra step to make sure that your sound is definitely uploaded back onto the Aerophone. So now let's have a little look at Mainstage itself and maybe hear some examples of how that's going to work with the Sample Modeling Trumpet. So here we are in Mainstage, and let's just show you how we make sure that the trumpet is ready to go. So we've selected as our instrument input here contact, and we've opened up the trumpet instrument from the drop-down list on the left-hand side. And we're also going to make sure that in this setting here that we've done two things. One is pressed wind controller, and also make sure that this square here is actually lit. A lot of people are missing that step out. So without that, it's not going to work properly. So make sure that you've clicked on use wind controller. And the great thing about the trumpet is that actually to get going really well, you don't really have to do anything else at all for this setting. So I'm going to leave that and close it here. Just wanted to show you here how I get this nice little graphic in the middle here. I'm going to do a video on how I do my Mainstage setup here, but this is a nice little graphic here, and if you click somewhere on that graphic, you can actually change how that looks. I mean, if we wanted it to be a kind of keyboard graphic or something, we could do something different in the middle. The one I've chosen here is if you go right down to the bottom where it says Apple Sound Library Layouts, and then select the one that says brass, we get this nice effect here with the kind of brass tubing. And so let's see how those settings that we made on the Aerophone affect the sound. So here's my basic sound. Now, of course, I've got some lip control for vibrato and for doing some scoops. So that's kind of already built in to the Aerophone, and of course it's the same on an Akai Iwi as well to get that kind of a control. And the other thing we did is we set up the thumb to give us some new controls. So let's see what they sound like. The first one was making the thumb lever switch upwards, which gives us that kind of traditional kind of lip trill type thing. This is good in a kind of section type sound. So I can do that kind of traditional big band lip gliss if I want to. That's by moving my thumb up. The other one I used there briefly was moving my thumb to the right. Now here's what a normal transition sounds like over an octave. And if I move my thumb over to the right, now I'm going to get that kind of portamento sound. So that's by moving my thumb to the right. I left my thumb down as doing a kind of bend. That's if you don't want to use your lip. So that's nicely using my thumb going down to cause the lip movement to move downwards. And then if I move my thumb over to the left hand side, this is where I've introduced the growl sound. And it's incremental, so when I move the thumb just a little bit, I get just a little bit of growl. And if I push it all the way over, I get a more dirty sound. And there I'm using both the downward joystick a little bit to give a little bit of downward bend and also some growl as well. So I can even mix those effects as I'm going as well. So as you can see, it works fantastically well with wind synthesizers, as do all the sample modeling instruments. I think the trumpet was the very first one I got. And I still think it's probably one of the very best that they make. They also have a lovely flugel horn, which is a lovely, gentle, soft sound. So that works really nicely as well. And the other thing I wanted to show you just briefly before I play you a little bit on this trumpet is I've got this set up here so that I've programmed some of these buttons on this interface to do even more control. So here I've made this button activate a Harmon Mute. It's a straight sound. If I press the button in, all of those thumb controls still work, of course, with a Harmon Mute. And here we can go straight mute. You can hear its breath controlling really nicely as well. So there it is. I'm going to try and do a video very soon on my Mainstage setup so you can see how I make some of these settings. Actually, the basic setup is really quite straightforward. But before we finish, let's just play you a little bit on this fantastic trumpet sound. Thank you for watching again. I do appreciate your comments. If you've got some help for the community as well, please write some suggestions in the comments below. I'd love you to subscribe and press the like button if you've found this a useful video. I'm going to play you out with one of my very favourite tunes. This is a version I've got from Chris Botti, fantastic trumpet player. By the way, do listen to some trumpet players and try and learn how to imitate the sound. Something I'm constantly trying to work on because that's really the key to making any of these instruments sound more realistic, to do something that an actual player of that instrument might do. So take time to listen. And this is one of my favourite tunes, My One and Only Love. Thanks for watching.